Hi friends, so in this video I want to do a detailed step-by-step installation of this Senville 12,000 BTU unit that goes on Amazon for about 600 bucks or so. So I just want to first go over a few of the basics. I'm not an electrician, I'm not a plumber. By trade, I'm a programmer, so I want to just give that disclaimer. This is my third installation of a Senville AC. I'm not sure if I would say it's a complete DIY project for most people, but if you're savvy, if you know how to do electrical, and just have the time to learn, then I would recommend taking on the installation, just because the pricing for AC is so low, and then you need a few things that are going to add up maybe to an extra 300 bucks, for the first installation, give or take. So I would for sure recommend this to anybody that has the time and some DIY knowledge. So let me just show you the finished product, and then I'll go through everything step by step. And I also recommend that if you're not sure about something, then check for some other YouTube videos that are available. I have seen a couple of step-by-step installations, but I wanted to post mine, just to see who could get something out of it, since it is a little different than anything else I've seen. So yeah, let's get started, and I'll walk through the finished product just to show you some of the finishing touches I did, some of the finishing tips, and then it's going to go into the very beginning, step-by-step of every single thing that had to happen to get this unit working. Alright, so these Senville ACs come with an outdoor unit and an indoor unit. The kit comes with everything really that you need for installation, aside from well, I'm just gonna talk about my installation. I did use these wall mounts. These are about 40-50 bucks on Amazon. I used you have to buy electrical wire to go from the AC to your breaker. I used this, so that maybe cost me around for 10 gauge. It cost me about 80 bucks for 50 feet. I did use this little plastic cover to make things look nicer. That maybe cost me around 20 bucks. Yeah, everything else here was included. I did buy like some hole sealer things that maybe cost me about an extra 10 bucks. So let's go have a look at the indoor unit. Alright, so this is the indoor unit. Everything here was included aside for the plastic tubing that I also used outside. I think it came out to be really nice. So yeah, with my installation, I have the unit hung up, and then I have the pipes running through the side of the unit going to the outside. So I think that's a bit unique from the installations I've seen posted. So the AC comes with a Wi-Fi dongle that's inside, so you can control the unit on your Alexa app, and it also comes with a remote. So let me just turn it on for you. I've been really happy with this installation. I secured it wall to the wall. The sound output is actually lower than some of the other Senville ACs I have installed. So I'm very happy with this one, and I think I'll be recommending it to every friend that might have some heat issues in their house. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, so having air conditioning, having your house cooled is a vital part of living here. And compared to like the 12 grand price tags you might see from a full house install, getting 4 or 5 of these might be an alternative to some people that are not as picky about having some extra piping outside. So enough said. Just wanted to give you a look at the finished product before I dive into the step-by-step installation. Please feel free to post comments. I'll try to reply and give my the best knowledge I have on the topic, or I'll let you know if I'm just not sure about something. But yeah, good luck on your install. Again, it's not for lighthearted, so make sure that you're committed to finishing it, or you might have to get an electrician or an HVAC guy involved at some point. But I was able to do 3 ACs without any assistance from anyone, although some are more problematic than others. So please take your time, especially with the refrigerant lines, as that's the portion that you can make the mistakes on the easiest. Hi friends. So this is the step-by-step tutorial of the Senville LETO series 1200 BTU air conditioner. So it arrives on a pallet like this, where you have the outdoor unit and the indoor unit separately, and then you have all the lines that you need to run everything. This is the third air conditioner from Senville I'll be installing. So I've made a bunch of mistakes. I'm hoping this one will be a lot smoother. And I'm really trying to go step by step and kind of point out some of the things that would have been useful, during my installations and all the things I came across. So yeah, this goes for about $600 on Amazon. And so far, I've been very happy with the ACs I've installed. I installed an 1800 BTU in my garage. It's cooled that really well. And I've also installed a three-zone unit that's 2800 BTUs, which I'll make another video just going over some of the things that I came across, but I didn't get a chance to do a step-by-step on that one. But I'm hoping to kind of make it up with this one and take my time. And we'll be starting installing the indoor unit, which is right here. So I'm gonna cut this all open and get that piece ready, because that is the first recommended step in the manual as well. All right, so the first step is deciding where do you want to hang your indoor unit. I want to install this AC in my office, and I have a couple of options of where to hang it. I can either hang it on this side, or I can hang it on this side, but this side is a little tight, and the recommended space between the sides is about 5 inches, and it's about 6 inches from the top. So if I put it on this side, I'll have a lot more space to do that. All right, so let's get this out of the box and take a look. All right, so that's the front of the unit. This is the top, this is the bottom, and all of the piping and the wiring is going to come in through the back left side of the unit. So from the front, all of the piping will be on this side. So ideally, the easiest installation is trying to hang it on the wall closest to the exit, which would be this wall. But again, it's pretty tight. I'm not going to have all the clearance that's recommended. And the circulation for the room actually works better on this wall, since I have a bathroom back there that also needs some of the airflow. And I'm also trying to mount the outdoor unit on this side, so you have to take that into consideration. So I want to do this fairly close, drill a hole on the side, and you have the piping meet the outdoor unit that's going to be right behind here. All right, let's take a look at the back over here. So to start with, you're going to take this metal plate off of the back. There is a screw holding it in place. Let's get that off. And you're not really going to need this screw after this. This is just for the packaging. So this kind of is just held in by plastic. You just nudge it out, it comes right off. So this is going to be the top, and what we want to do is we're going to want to hang our metal plate on the wall, attach it to the wall, and then the AC is just going to pop right on there. Alright, so I just want to approximate where my metal plate should be, just based off outlining the AC. So I want it to be like right around here. I don't want it to be too far from the right wall because it's gonna add a little ugliness to the project. I will get like a little protective plate for the wiring, but I'm gonna keep it at the minimum distance recommended, so I'm gonna keep it around 5 inches. So I'll keep it right around there, a little bit over 5 inches. You want to have good airflow, make it efficient. And on the top, it's also recommended around 5 inches, so I think, let me double check this real quick. The top, it says 6 inches. So yeah, I also want to keep it very efficient, so I'll push for like 7 inches. And here I'll do closer to 5. Okay. A little more. On 5, on 7. I'm just approximating here. Now, my trusty pencil. I want to outline the bottom here, and the top. I'm going to put a line up there, on the top. All right. So that's just an approximation of where I want my plate, metal plate to go. And pop off the metal plate, put this back in the box for now. So this is the top, has an arrow pointing up. Let me get a leveler. All right, so we're gonna level this and decide where to make the holes. And this thing isn't too heavy, so I'm not too worried about trying to find a stud or anything. I'm just gonna put it straight in a dry wall. If I get a stud, then it'll be a little stronger. But again, I'm not worried about it. So, I'm gonna approximate. So the metal plate side is about 6 inches from the body of the unit. Again, I'm just approximating here. A couple inches one way or the other isn't going to make too much of a difference for what I'm doing right now. And the top is close to the top of the unit, so I'll leave it at right there. All right, I'm going to get my leveler. Always want to make everything as level as possible, keep it clean. Get slightly lower. That looks good. I'm going to put a straight line here for my metal body, and just like that in case I need to put it back. And then I'm going to start outlining the holes I want to use. And you have some flexibility here. There's a bunch of holes in this thing. I'm going to stick to the sides here. Just make 4 holes. get it attached. Oh. All right, let's get this metal plate hung up. You know, I'm not even going to worry about studs with this one just because, again, it's not very heavy. They provided some nice long screws. I'm just going to drill it right into the drywall here. Oh, what's this thing? Right there. Wrong pocket. All right, we got 5 screws in there. Feels nice and strong. Let's hang it up, make sure everything looks right, and go from there. All right, so you're gonna kind of lean it against the top. It clips in on the bottom. And it kind of can move a little bit back and forth here, so you have some wiggle room. All right, so I'm gonna have to drill a hole through my block wall over here. All of the wires will be running out of the right side here. So I'm gonna have to cut this open and fold all of the refrigerant lines and also run the cables through here. So I'm gonna have to try to get a hole going right above here, and the hole has to be pointed slightly downwards since the water lines need to have a downward slope. So I'm gonna see how close I can get to the wall, because if I get too far, then it's gonna be a bit hard for me to move all the refrigerant lines through it. So that's gonna be the next step, is trying to drill this hole. What I'll be using is this 2.5 inch block wall drill bit. I'm going to be using a hammer drill. So let's get that going. Alright, so I'm going to try to drill a hole in the sidewall. This is the first time I'm doing this kind of installation, so hopefully I don't learn anything that I don't want to learn. But yes, this is where the unit is hung up, and it's going to be coming out of the side here. I'm going to try to drill it as close to the wall as possible. I also want to try to angle it somewhat downward and a little bit towards that way. Oh, if I can, since that's going to make it easier for me to install the actual, all of the AC lines and everything. So yeah, usually the installation would be easier if the air conditioner was right here, and I could just pop the lines on the back of the unit, but this was the best option I could think of. So I'm actually gonna make the hole to come out slightly below where the unit bottom is, because I want to make sure to be able to angle it down. Let's try this. So this is going to be a really tricky part. You have to kind of angle it just to be able to get it to cut in. I'm going to try to place it against here. Close to the side of the wall, a little closer than I wanted. Let's give it a try. Not sure if this will work all the way. Let's try it. I'm going to switch this to a hammer drill, see if that makes a little extra progress. Stick. Alright, going. Alright, so I got through the first half of this block wall, and so far it's looking pretty good. Alright, so that's the first half of the block wall. As you can see, this one's nice and thick, which is good for a house structure. Now let's keep it going. This concrete block is getting a little messy around here. It's expected. Switch back to the hammer drill. The regular drill. The hammer drill function, that is. The second piece is always a little tougher because there's more friction coming from the front. We are through. Awesome. It's the second half of the block wall, and you can see my outdoor house color, royal blue. All right, there's the hole. pointed down, very close to this wall over here. So I'm hoping it'll be a pretty smooth pass through, but this part is always a bit tricky. Next, I'm going to bend the tubing to make it come out of the side of the unit, and also pass through the electrical tubing since it has to be passed through together. Alright, next we're gonna cut out this little side area, a bunch of stuff here, and we're gonna bend all of these lines, refrigerant lines, water lines, and we want to make sure to do that really slowly so you don't damage the refrigerant line, because that's the most fragile thing on here. And we're going to take some of the electrical line and run it through the same holes as well. Alright, I'm going to score some of these with a box cutter, just to try to make some of it a little cleaner. Make sure nothing really breaks the way I don't want it to. Even though this section won't be very visible since it's going to be on the side of my unit with only 5-inch gap between the wall. Alright, so let's score these lines. Oh, these don't even need scoring. I think looks like just pop right out. But I'm trying to decide if I want to remove this metal part, and I think I will, since I don't see a real purpose in having it there. Let's get our screwdriver. That's one. Another screws in here. Unless I'm missing something. Okay, there's another screw on the side there. Just no great access to it. Okay, that's a little strange. And I can't do it, so I'm just gonna mess with this metal piece until it just comes off. It'll take 5 minutes, but I've already spent 20 minutes trying to get this stupid screw off. I'm not sure what the design or what they expect you to do. It's not in the instructions, but I know it'll be easier to get these lines through here if I can get this little metal piece out. Alright, it's getting close, I think, to breaking. So this is one of the things you have to expect with these installs, just things that kind of suck time without you didn't expect, especially if you're trying to do anything differently than you did previously. Luckily this is a nice thin metal piece. It's almost about to pop off. There it goes. Okay, that took a lot longer than expected, but we got it. So the next step is going to be bending these cables to the right side here, so they all come out from here, and that the unit can be flush against the wall. So the water line should be the easiest, since it's really flexible. I think I'm gonna try to. I would like to actually put that one above this one to give it more of a curve. So let's start bending our refrigerant lines. So these are the copper refrigerant lines, and this is where this is actually the pieces that are most fragile and the ones that can give you the most problems. So you have to be very careful of them. We have the smaller one and a bigger one. One is for the liquid of your refrigerant, and one is for the vapor. I forget which one is which. But yeah, the bigger one has a nice coil around it, which helps to prevent the damage. You kind of want to be very gentle with these and slowly bend them over. I'm going to do it one by one. Keep an eye on it, because if there is some damage to it, at least I want to know about it. See, I haven't actually done this installation where I've had to bend it this much. Usually you have to bend it this many degrees, so it's 90 degrees. This time I'll have to bend it extra to get it where I need it. I'm just kind of slowly, little by little, turning it. Okay, it's looking pretty good. And you're definitely going to want to get this this foam piece secured around it tightly, because it needs to be insulated, especially the piece that's passing through the wall. So let's get this smaller one bended now. Not to jinx it, but this one is usually easier to bend. As you can see, it's much thinner, but it also doesn't have the protective coil. I kind of wish it had something to help me bend it even a little easier than it already is. Alright, so that's our refrigerant line. I did take off the insulation when mending it, which I think maybe it's not necessary, but I like knowing that it's in good shape. And these lines are also pressurized with nitrogen. So if you do make a mistake, it'll be hissing at you and it'll let you know, which hopefully you'll see later when I open up these little plastic pieces before the connections. There should be a hissing sound letting out all the nitrogen. Alright, so we have these. I'm gonna get this water line bent over here. Now that I'm remembering correctly, I think they do want the water line at the very bottom, so because you don't want it possibly leaking at things above it, especially the electrical line, which I'll attach next. And I'm going to get some of this electrical tape and just get the insulation cleaned up. And again, the most important piece of insulation that's going to matter is the one that's passing through the wall. If that one isn't well insulated, then it can create some moisture inside your wall, and it's the last thing that you want from these kind of installs. Alright, so yeah, you're going to want to use electrical tape all the way up, secure this area too. And then I'm going to pass the electrical line through, and I'll show you how to connect it. Alright, so this is the electrical cable that comes with the accessories in the accessories box next to the extra line of refrigerant. I think this is about 16 feet to match up with the refrigerant line. 16 or 25, I don't recall. But anyway, this is the outdoor part with the waterproofing, and this is the indoor piece. And we have to get this attached to the unit before we pass all these wires through the wall, since they'll be getting passed through together. I'm just gonna undo this whole thing. And in my installation, I'll be cutting this line, and I'll have to splice it, most likely, depending on how nice I want the installation to look. Because yeah, I don't particularly want this cable just sitting there curled up. So most likely I'm going to splice this cable, and also I'll have to cut the refrigerant line that's provided. Okay, so we're going to take this cable and it's going to go through the back of the unit here. Let's see if I can swing it. I've done it a couple times. Okay, let me get this turned around. This is the Senville series. I just recently installed an Aura series, which is slightly different, but very similar installation. These Senville ones, I think they're slightly louder, but they're definitely more of a bang for your buck. And yeah, I think this one cost me probably like this 12,000 BTU only cost me about $550 on Amazon, which is a great price. All right, let's get this opened up. And we're going to be wiring it inside here. So I believe this should be pretty straightforward. Get the screw off. Put it right here so we don't lose it. Get a screwdriver. Pop this thing off. Gentle if we can, but if it gets damaged, then we'll cry about it. It is inside, not visible. That's the only screw. This one's holding on. There it goes. Alright, took me about 10-15 minutes. Struggling with some of these little attachments, but I just wanted to point out to make sure that red, black, white, and green are attached in that order. Do a couple of pull tests, make sure everything is nice and tight, because yeah, if you miswire this, you could do some permanent damage. So make sure to triple check this. Alright, next we're going to tape up the lines, tape them together so that we can pass them through the wall together, which is always a bit tricky. The passing through the wall, that is. So the drain line has to be on the bottom, or that's the recommended way to do it. Then we have the electrical line kind of in between the refrigerant lines and the drain line. I think the idea is if there's ever a leak, we don't want to get into our electrical lines. So they provide some like white kind of non-sticky tape, and I don't find that very useful in this part of the process. So I just use some nice strong Scotch tape. So that's some good protection for these lines as they pass through my concrete wall, which is kind of jagged and gets all nasty. So I'm going to go almost all the way. And this may damage some of the insulation a bit on the areas on the outside where I'll be actually bending it closer to the wall, but I can always replace it or add some more tape. Passing this through the wall is always a bit tricky, so the easier you can make this on yourself, the better. And I find that using more tape farther down makes this kind of an easier process. Alright, so it's time to try to hang this thing up and get all the piping and stuff through the hall. This is one of the trickier parts of this install. Helps having an extra person, but I do not. So I like to have a ladder here in case I have to put down the AC and yeah, I'm hoping to not have to put it down and be able to just attach it and run it through and hang it up. So the first part of this is going to be running the electrical wire through the hall. We're just gonna stick it straight through there and then try to make it align with the other wires. So yeah, for my installation, I'm going to be cutting most of this electrical wire, so I could have done that ahead of time. But for most installations, you'll be needing the full wire, or maybe even longer one. So this wire is going to be attached to the exterior unit, and it's going to provide the electrical power and all the control for the indoor unit. Alright, let's give this a try. I have my step ladder and my actual ladder. Let's see how the view is here. Not too great, but you'll get the idea. It's just the video just to get you a little familiar with the process. And you want to make sure your unit will be able to be flush with the wall the way that you ran the piping. Looks like mine should be. I'm going to get this started. You only have so much time because your arms will start fatiguing. So you want to try to get the black wire through there. It's not longer than other wires, and they can go through together. Okay. An extra person will definitely be helpful right about now. Force it too much. Something's a little stuck there. See, I should have taped up all of this together because it's getting wedged in. I'm going to take this out and add a little more tape. And I'm always a little timid about taping the end because you'll have to undo it. And then all the insulation gets kind of damaged, but got to get through this first step. Move on to the next steps. All right, let's give this another try. I'm bending a little bit after that whole ordeal. Okay, let's try this again. Black wire. Up in there. I think most installations are going to be a little easier because you're not going to have such a big block wall. Newer construction is actually just plywood and everything, so I think this one's a little trickier than most, but still very doable, as you can see. Let's see. So attaches from the top, and the bottom clicks in. And this is attached to wall. There it goes. Ooh. Let's have a closer look. So now we have our unit looking flush. This piece sticking out on the side there. I'm probably gonna fill this in with some hole filler and maybe cover this up with something towards the end. But yeah, this part of the installation is finished, and I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my Sunday. Let's just have a quick look outside. So here we are on the outside of the house. All the stuff is sticking out here. And next we will, I think I'll probably get the outdoor unit mounted and then connect up the electrical, connect up the piping, and then I'll run the electrical wire from my indoor breaker to here. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your day, and I will continue this video another day. All right, one last note today. The kit does provide this little putty that you can stuff in your outdoor hole and the indoor as well if you want to, but I think indoor I'll use something else. And also this little cover. So I just want to do that before I stop for today, just to keep out the bugs, or at least limit the odds of any bugs getting in there. Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna use these brackets to mount the outdoor unit on my outdoor wall, and I'm just gonna mount it close to where the wires come out of the wall from the indoor unit. So I already have one mounted. I didn't secure it too well just because I want to do some final measurements after I install the second one. I'll just keep this running as I drill the holes for the second one and put in all the concrete anchors. So this kit I bought on Amazon for about 40 bucks. Comes with these concrete anchors, and you have to drill a 1/2 inch hole in your wall. This is a block wall, so it's like some solid parts and some parts that are only about an inch long. So I'm gonna I like to use a smaller bit size to get the hole started. It's easier to control, and then after that I'm going to use the 1/2 inch hole with the hammer drill. Alright, I just have the initial holes drilled. Let's start in with our 1/2 inch big hammer drill. This was a solid part of the wall. The concrete block has solid portions that do a lot of the load carrying, and then it has hollow portions where you can run the wires. This one is a solid portion, which is good in this case because it creates extra strength. It's a little dusty. You might want to wear a mask if you're sensitive to concrete dust, which I guess most humans kind of are, but I'm just going to let it settle a bit. So these are the concrete anchors. I'm going to unscrew screw out, and we're gonna get these hammered into our wall. Alright, so first I like to use one of these softer hammers. I forgot what they're called. Get your anchor. Make sure that the threaded piece is on the bottom. Nice and level so it doesn't stick out. Alright, they're pretty easy. I'm just gonna hand tighten them. Then I'm going to tighten up these bottoms here, and I'm going to measure 17 3/4 inches to make sure that this will match up properly with the AC, and make sure it's nice and level. I'm going to tighten these up first. I'm going to double check the measurements. Make sure 17 3/4. Looks good. So let me tighten one first. It would be better to get two people lifting this AC onto these mounts, but I just don't have that option at the moment, and I don't want to wait for any friends to come over. I'm gonna take my time, try to be careful. Position this right in the middle there. Slowly get this AC up on this mount. So make sure to be extra careful, since all of the Freon is preloaded into this outdoor unit portion of your AC. Let's rest it up here for a second. Looked a bit lighter when it was laying by itself on the floor. And move the slider back over. Alright, let's try this. Alright, got it up here. It's looking fairly good. You shouldn't have to drop this on your head. Now I'm going to wiggle the supports under it. See how close to the wall this thing is. Let's definitely closer to the wall than recommended, but again, the extra airflow around this wall mount setup, I'm confident that it's going to be just fine. And I really like having the AC under my awning so it doesn't get direct sunlight and it doesn't get direct rainfall. Alright, so the kit came with these rubber gaskets. These are meant to damper just the motion and make it a quieter install if you have anything that will be bothered by noise around. Alright, I tighten it up a bit and there it is. Again, a bit closer to the back than recommended, a bit closer to the top than recommended. But it is mounted outdoors and there's plenty of air circulation coming from the bottom. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the outdoor install, or the outdoor hanging of this unit. Everything went as planned for the most part. So next steps will be to attach the refrigerant lines coming from here to the unit. Then I'm gonna have to run an electrical line that's 25 amps. Since it says max fuse 25, so I'm gonna have to get a 25 amp circuit breaker attached to my sub panel and run the wire here. And also in between I'm gonna have a disconnect, which is in the NEC code. I wanna make sure everything is up to code. All right, that's it for today. Okay, let's talk about the wiring. So the side of the unit has all the information you're really gonna need, and if your unit is a little bit different than what I'm installing the 12,000 BTU 120 volt. So as you can see, it's telling you 115 volt, same thing. So it's saying the minimum circuit ampacity is 18.5. That means that the wire that you're using should be able to handle at least 18.5. So I'm going to use a 12 gauge which can handle around 20 amps. The max fuse is 25, so the fuse breaker I'm going to use is 25 amps. And then let's consider the actual wiring. So once you take the wiring box out, all of the wires will connect here. So on the right side, as this diagram shows, on the back of the cover here, is that, as you can see on the right side, it's the 115 volt power supply. We have a live and a neutral and a ground. And then on the left, we have the indoor unit connections, which are 1, 2, 3. So yeah, that's about it. And then I'm gonna need to run a wire through my crawl space into my garage where my sub panel lives, and yeah, get everything connected up. All right, so I want to start wiring this up a bit. I'm gonna take the indoor black cable and I want to make it a little bit longer, maybe have it like bend like this a little bit, and then get it connected in here. And I'm just gonna cut it and see if I could just put the wire straight into this this connector, and if not, I'll add a couple of little pieces to make it fit better. I'm gonna use one of these electric connectors to hold the wiring in place. Alright, so here's my indoor wiring unit connection. So the cover for the electrical pieces has actually the diagram, tells you 1 is red, 2 is black, 3 is white. So it's just all on there for you in case you didn't notice it. And I ended up running the ground to this ground screw right here, because this ground one I wanted to reserve for the main wiring, and I ended up adding an extra part, this little crimper copper, you know, thing. But you should be able to make a longer wire and just get it around the screw, or you could try to stuff 2 wires inside this this ground little outlet they have here. All right, moving on. And I added these wire attachments here, just to hold the wire in place in case it gets tugged at some point. Alright, so the next step is going to be running the electrical line from the sub panel to this outdoor unit. So what this is going to involve is having a disconnect on the outside. Then we're going to run the cable to this disconnect, and from the disconnect we're going to run a cable to our outdoor unit electrical connection. According to the NEC, the handle for the disconnect should not be more than 6 feet and 7 inches from the floor. So I measured it to this little mark here, and I'm just going to use that also to hang this little sub panel to start with. And that's going to be below 6 feet and 7 inches. Ideally, if it was up to me, I'd probably hang it higher to be, you know, more out of the way and make it an easier install. But I'll stick with the NEC and do it this way. All right, so I got one concrete screw into the disconnect over here. I hung it up, and I'm going to use this 10 gauge wire to with the ground, 10/2 with the ground, to run it through my crawl space. So since this is a 120 watt system, it's gonna have a black for the hot wire and a white for the neutral, and then it has just an uncovered copper for the ground. So I positioned this kind of in this space as well, because I know that this section of my block wall is hollow. As you can see the lines here. In my wall, I know that this line is going to be solid. It's going to be filled with concrete, and this line is going to be hollow. So I'm going to have a chance to try to run my my cable through the wall, and that's going to make for a much nicer and cleaner install. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole up there to line up with the disconnect, and I'm going to try to start running the wire through there. I'll put the wire in there, but I'm going to go in my crawl space, and I'll see if I can access that area easily enough. Then I'll try to push the wire through the hole there, and I'll be drilling in my block wall in one of these two, and then trying to. So actually, I'm gonna line up the hole with one of these hole notches. So it's gonna be a bit to the left is where I'll make the hole, or actually we'll do it to the right. I'll match up with this one because it's a little farther from this space, which I know is going to be solid concrete here. So yeah, I'm going to give that a try, see how it goes. Worst case scenario, I'll just make a hole up there and run the wire from the top. And it's going to look a bit messier, but if that's going to be my best option, I'll do it that way. So yeah, let me I'm gonna drill this hole, start putting the wire through, try to find in my crawl space and see where I'm at, to see if I'll be able to have access to actually run the wire through the wall. This is one place where it helps to have a helper. So one person could be running it, the other person could be trying to find the wire in the hole that you create. Otherwise, you'll have to kind of go back and forth and you know, kind of do some planning and get lucky a little bit. So yeah, I'll give it a try. Most likely, I think I'll probably just be getting the wire from the top and you know, getting it in some conduit and running it down to here. Okay, there's been a little change of plans. So I drilled up here. I looked at my crawl space, and it's just too difficult to try for me to try to drill in this wall and run the wire down here. So I ended up just putting the wire coming out of here, and I think I'm just gonna put the wire directly into the electrical connections here, and I'm gonna skip the disconnect for this install. I have watched a couple of videos that kind of gave justifications for that being fine with NEC based on these motors for the split ACs. So since it's also in my backyard, I'm just gonna go ahead with that for now. Since my wife has also been complaining a bit about the ugliness of this install, and I want to limit kind of all the wires I can, so this will help do that. So I'm just gonna run it in here directly for now. I'm gonna leave the extra wire tucked into the crawl space, and at some point I might you know, add back the disconnect if I want to try to get if I have any issues getting it approved by like an inspector. But at this point I'm just gonna skip that, and yeah, I'll just do this the quicker way, and I'll move on to the refrigerant install, the refrigerant line install afterwards. Alright, here's the connection I made. We got the ground, neutral for white, and the live for black. And that wire is gonna just go straight into the hole right here. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit. But yeah, nice and simple for now. And it's less wires, so it's gonna look good. Alright, so we have our electrical hooked up. I'm going to do some final cleaning later to clean this up a little bit, but for now I'm going to move on to connecting the refrigerant lines. So our refrigerant lines are actually very close to the connection on the outer unit, and to start with, I'm just going to bend these refrigerant lines down at an angle towards the refrigerant unit connections. So have to be very careful when bending these. You definitely don't want to create any kinks, or it's gonna mess with the performance of your refrigerator. So these are so small, I don't think I can try to use my pipe bender. I'm just gonna slowly kind of try to bend this. Start with the small one. And I kind of like to bend it in a few different places, so I'm not just risking kinking it in one place. I'm kind of moving my hand up and down while I bend it. Okay, that's almost there, I think. So that's kind of like pointing towards the same size connection on the unit here. Alright, and then let's do the similar thing with the large one. Large one does have that little spring around the side there, so it's gonna help prevent some of the kinking. So I'm just gonna try to bend it and let it bend in the placement where the spring that's holding it, the integrity in place. Yeah, this one is very close to the wall, so it's probably not the same as your installation that you're going to be working with. Since I had it away from the wall. But yeah, you get the idea. That's going to be the beginning. I'm going to bend it just a bit more and go from there. Alright, so now I kind of got it pointing towards the general direction of the connection on the unit. And I'm going to slowly open up these protecting lugs. And when you do this, I just want to do this step on camera just to show you. You should hear nitrogen coming out, and that just means that the system is pressurized, so that's kind of what you're looking for. If you don't hear that, then there's a chance maybe there was some damage to the unit. You know, there might not be. I have had one unit where there was no sound, but ideally we will hear some pressure sound as we open these lugs. So I'll loosen them up a little bit. So there was a slight pressure sound. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. So that one definitely had a lot of pressure in there. Okay, that's good. That's what you want. So we can let that out and put this back on. Alright, so we're gonna get to work on creating the extension pipe that we need to connect this. So let's look at it and see how that looks. So your kit comes with, I think it's about they vary, it's either 16 or 25 feet in length of this refrigerant pipe. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to get flare tools. We're going to have to get a pipe cutter, cut this to the correct length, and then we're going to have to flare this end and use an extra set of these that comes with the kit. Or you could also get it from the other end if you want to cut up that end. Okay, let me get started with this. Alright, so we're going to need to measure to see the distance from from the wall to the connection. And you know, there is a little wiggle room as you pull. You can pull this a little bit back and forward. But I think it's better to make it slightly longer. So you're kind of measuring from where it would be connecting to the connector. So in this case, it's about 8 inches. I'm gonna say 8 inches and about 8 1/4. A little bit less than 8 1/4 inches. I'm gonna measure that here. Alright, so I marked off 8 1/4 inches here. And this is the flare kit that I got from Amazon. It includes a pipe cutter. This guy right here. So we're gonna start by cutting that pipe. Alright, if you've never used a pipe cutter before, it's fairly easy. It just gets tighter and looser as you turn the knob and bottom. So let's find the part where we marked it off. There it goes. So there's the 8 1/4, and I'm gonna go slightly smaller after examining it again. So I'm gonna start by tightening it where I want to cut. Okay, you do a little bit tight, not too tight. And you go around once. You tighten it a bit more. Go around again. And just keep doing that until it breaks off. Oh, there it goes. Alright, so here is our cut pipe. Okay, there's our cut pipe, and one thing we do want to do before starting to create the flare is you want to deburr it. So there's like kind of sharp edge in the middle after you cut it. Just gonna take any old knife or box cutter, and there are deburring tools, but I don't have one currently. And you just kind of run it through the edge and try to cut out the sharp piece a little bit. Not too much, just a few times. And make sure you're pointing downwards because you don't want any of that stuff getting in there. Let's blow it off from the other side as well. So the other side already has a flare, factory made. You do want to double check that. I hear a lot of people report possible leaks from existing flares. This one seems fine to me. So let's go ahead and work on creating the flare on the other side. Just move your fingers across a little bit, make sure everything looks clean. So this is the flare tool. I believe that has different sizes, for different copper pipes that you want to flare. I believe this one is an 1/8. So yeah, there's an 1/8 here. You're gonna put it in the center there, and the other side has the actual flare bit. So it looks like that, and you want to try to get it level. On that part, and then you're going to tighten it up. Oh, I forgot the most important part. You have to make sure you put the flare nut in before. This is what's going to hold your flare in place, and you have to put that before you actually make the flare, or you'll never be able to get it on. So let's put that back in the 1/8. Make sure it's nice and level on this side. Tighten it up till it's flush. It's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to use a wrench though to make it a little extra tight. I need to hurt my hands trying to over tighten it. See, it still looks a little bit off. Alright, once you got it nice and tightened and you don't really see much of a gap here and everything looks smooth, then you're going to take this piece of the flare tool and kind of attach it like that. Let's open it up first. This hold it kind of tight. Make sure it's tight in there. And that's what's going to create the flare. When you get it like that, then you tighten it. It's going to push the thing into the copper until it creates a nice flare. You don't do it too tight because this copper is very, very soft. That's it. You open it up. Let's see how our flare looks. Okay, there's our flare. Looking pretty good to me. I think it's gonna be good for our purposes. So yeah, that's about it. That's how you create a flare, and then we're gonna be able to use this to connect our indoor pipes to our outdoor pipes. You might want to smooth this out a little bit if you have like some kind of sandpaper, but not that's 100% necessary. Okay, let's move on. Alright, so we have our little connector made, and let's just walk through what's involved in connecting this to our unit. So first let's take off the lugs from the protector lugs from here. This one. This bottom one. I'm just going to run my hand across there, clean off anything that might be there. This one looks a little whitish. I'm going to get a little towel and just clean this off a little bit. For some reason it looks like it has a little discoloration. Alright. Then we're going to lubricate the tips of the connectors with this Nylog Blue. It is a gasket and thread sealant. It's compatible with all refrigerants, so even if a tiny bit gets into your lines, it shouldn't be a big issue. Just make sure the length here is decent. It looks pretty good. Push this back a little bit. So I'm going to put some of this Nylog just on the tips here. I'm going to like dab, do a dab, and then go around. And this is going to help with the seal. This part of the installation is the kind of the most delicate, and you can really mess things up if you don't do a good job. So I wanted to remind you guys, or just mention, to spend a lot of time on making these flares, make sure they look alright. And this is where you're going to experience any possible leaks. So yeah, do your best, and then yeah, just check for leaks when we're done, and I'll walk through that process. I think I'm gonna put a tiny bit of dabs in the middle of these ones here too. The sealant. Alright, once we have our sealant, we can start connecting. We're gonna hand tighten first. Make sure, try to point your flare straight. Make sure it connects, and then hand tighten. And we'll wiggle it around a little bit. Okay, we're gonna hand tighten as much as we can. Let's get the bottom one here. Yeah, you might have to do a little bending to get things to match up. This one I could probably have made it slightly smaller. But yeah, it's hard to get it perfect, especially at these small lengths. There's not much wiggle room. So just gonna do a little bending until it kind of seems to match up pretty good. And yeah, do your best to avoid any kinks. Alright, so that's kind of looking pretty good right there. I'm gonna push it tight and then hand tighten as far as I can. Yeah, the straighter it is, the lower chance there will be of a leak. I think I'm gonna open this one again and make sure it still matches up pretty good, which it seems to be. And yeah, I would recommend you watch a few videos on this and just try to get as familiar with it as you can. But yeah, you might, even if you do everything right, you might still see a leak. And they do say, one of the things in instructions does mention to tighten, then loosen, then tighten again. That should help with a better connection. So once you have it hand tightened, then you're gonna want to tighten with a tool. One of these adjustable wrenches works really well. I have this other wrench to hold this in place. Although with these smaller ones, I don't think you actually need to give it much support because there's not as much pressure. So I'm gonna tighten it, loosen it, then tighten again. Yeah, you can Google, and instructions do mention trying to use a torque wrench, but if you don't have one available, as I don't at the moment, after a few of these you kind of start to get a feel of the amount of pressure you need. And some people say just hand tighten as tight as you can, and then do a quarter turn with the wrench after you hand tighten. I'm going to take this wrench that snaps on so I can hold it in place while I do a little tightening here. So first I'm going to loosen it a little bit, get a feel for it. It's nice and loose. So it's about the hand tightening level. I'm gonna go about a quarter turn to a half turn more. Yeah, you do want to be careful not to over tighten. If you over tighten, you will have a leak. So yeah, it's one of the trickier parts of the installation, more delicate parts. And you know, do your best and check for leaks. I am going to use a nitrogen tank to check for leaks. Otherwise, you're kind of, you know, you can do a vacuum and try to check for leaks that way, but that way can actually, you know, suck in some of the copper and seal a possible small leak. So nitrogen is a much better way to test, especially if you're not too great at knowing how to make these the flares and all these connections. So I would recommend getting a nitrogen tank, as I will use after I get my second one in place. And that one I'm just gonna I'm not gonna tape it since it's a similar process. It's just cutting you know, the bigger tube and doing exactly the same thing, creating a flare and connecting it. Alright, so here we have the refrigerant lines connected. It was a little tricky because of the position and how short this was. The bend was kind of hard to make. So I did use a pipe bender. There's a little bit of indentation, but the main thing is that the surface area is still very wide, so this should not be an issue. And yeah, the next step is testing for leaks. So I have a nitrogen tank. I'm going to do the nitrogen test. A lot of people do not want to invest the money in a nitrogen tank, which costs around $200 in my area. So they just use a vacuum pump to do that test, which is also necessary to use regardless. So yeah, for a lot of people that makes sense, but at this point I have had some bad experiences with leaks. So I decided to invest in the nitrogen tank, and I'll be able to test without releasing the refrigerant in here, and then which makes it, you know, a lot easier as opposed to finding a leak after you release the refrigerant and having to possibly add more refrigerant. You know, that's much more of a pain, and of course you have to buy the refrigerant, which also gets expensive. Alright, so I'm gonna move on to that step. Alright, so I'm gonna do a nitrogen PSI test. I'm not going to go into too much detail because there's already a few good videos that I actually use to get this knowledge on YouTube. So if you just search for split AC nitrogen PSI test. But I just want to give you a quick overview of how I'm doing mine. So we have the nitrogen tank. We basically open up this valve. This valve tells us how much PSI is coming out based on this adjustable thing. So we have it set to around 200 PSI. Then we have this valve that also shows around 200 PSI. We have everything opened up, connecting it from this side. And once you have that, we're gonna watch the PSI to see if it's not moving. Well, actually, the main test for this is we're gonna put bubbles in all these connections and see if bubbles start bubbling up. There's some of these gas leak locators. One is called Better Bubble. You basically just lather on the bubbles here, and if you see any bubbles, that means you have a leak, and you have to kind of tighten it up or try to redo your connections. So I'm gonna get that process started. I just wanted to go over this real quick, but again, please search for other videos if you want the step-by-step details. But this is kind of how it looks when the AC is hanging up in this position. And yeah, you just connect it straight to the outlet right here. Alright, so this is how the nitrogen test looks. See how nice and lathered, all the connections got. That's basically all that you can really test, is the connections that you made. You put a bunch of lather and you watch for bubbles. And yeah, this thing should make pretty big bubbles if there is a leak. So I've been watching this for a couple minutes. Lathered a few times, no bubbles, no movement. So I'm pretty confident that there is no leak. I'm going to proceed to the next step, which will be to create a vacuum. And just a reminder, you want to make sure not to do any of this bubbling when you do any type of leak test with the vacuum, because you do not want soap in your lines. That's definitely going to mess things up for you. All right, let's move forward. All right, so this is the part where we create a vacuum. I did my nitrogen test. It seemed like there were no leaks that I could see. So the next step is doing the nitrogen test, and I'll try to do this in a way that uses the least parts. There's a couple of ways to do this that people recommend, but I'll try to keep it simple. So what you're going to need for this is you're going to need one of these manifold gauges. This is one example of one. You get these on Amazon for like maybe 60-70 bucks. And you're going to need a vacuum pump. This is another example of that. I have this VIVOHOME 4 CFM vacuum pump, and it's worked well for me for the couple installs I've done so far. So you're basically gonna connect this one example of how I connect mine. So this right part is gonna go be connected to the pump, and the left part is gonna be connected straight to here. So we're gonna twist off this little end connection. You're going to need a little converter like this, and if you get a manifold set, they generally come with them because this is a very common conversion that is necessary. So as you can see, it's a Schrader valve. It has like a little thing that you would press. Some people like to take these out when they do a lot of these tests and things, but I'm going to leave it in because it's not necessary to take it out, and I want to keep it as simple as possible for this example. So as you can see, there's a matching Schrader adapter. So you have to make sure there's a Schrader adapter, or it just won't open it up. Yeah, when you're putting this stuff on and taking it off, you're gonna lose a little bit of gas. So it's something to keep in mind. And after we release the refrigerant, we're also gonna lose a little bit of gas when we do this. So yeah, I would recommend wearing some gloves at that point. The gas that's coming out right now is from the nitrogen test that I did. So it's still pressurized. So then once I have my little converter, I'm gonna, again, it's a Schrader valve as well. So this also have to have a matching Schrader valve, or it won't open it up at all. Close this up. And yeah, I guess all the nitrogen got out since I had this stuff open, but that's fine. I'm okay with it getting out. What we're going to be doing with this vacuum is sucking everything out of there anyway. We're going to be running that for about 15 minutes when we turn it on, and we're going to make sure that it stays, that these readings don't move. So yeah, let me get this plugged in, and we're going to watch it, make sure it doesn't move. Alright, so I got everything connected. Make sure all these connections are nice and tight. Do a couple of turns before you turn the pump on. And I heard it recommended, these pumps usually have 2 slots for adapters, and I heard it recommended to open the one that you're not using to start with for about a minute. So I'll do that. So it's recommended to run this for about 15 minutes. I'll do that recommendation, but again, my line set is so short, I could probably get away with a lot less. But yeah, I'll set a timer for 15 minutes. I'll let it run, and then we're going to be watching this gauge to make sure it doesn't move. But yeah, I'll come back after 50 minutes and we'll take a look. You should be able to see the air coming out of there, or whatever is inside your system. And just a reminder, I did open this up, so a reminder to close it. It needs to be airtight to actually suck everything out of your system. Alright, it's been about 20 minutes. One thing I wanted to point out is this thing got a bit loud, and I noticed that the minimum oil is kind of getting to the minimum level, so I think this that's why it got a little bit louder. I gotta fill this up with some oil. But we should be good for this install. So what you're gonna want to do is close off all the knobs here. Put this to close. Everything to close. So then the only vacuum will be in the yellow hose. Then you can turn off your pump. It's starting to get a little loud and scary looking. I think it's because of the oil. And now we're gonna set a timer for 20 minutes. Some people say leave it overnight to see that the gauge does not change. It stays negative 30. So that means it's pressurized. There's nothing in there, and if it stays like that, then we should be safe to release our refrigerant. All right, I'm gonna install the breaker and connect the wire to the breaker. So this says the max fuse is 25, so I'm going to use a 25 amp breaker. Alright, so here I am connecting the electrical wire to my sub panel. So this is the orange wire. I ran it from the crawl space, goes around here, and into my panel into a 25 amp breaker. It's 120 amps, so you just need one slotted breaker. And we have the white going to the white, the ground going to the ground, and the final piece in here is going to just be to slide in this breaker. I've been doing a lot of electrical on my house for some time. If you're not comfortable, I would suggest hiring an electrician. This is, for me, one of the easier parts because it's harder to really mess up compared to do like the refrigerant lines and all that kind of stuff. But again, make sure you keep it safe, and if you are new to it, for sure turn off the power to the sub panel, which I didn't do currently, but I did do quite a bit when I first got started. Alright, let's move on. Alright, so it's been a few hours. Everything's still holding at negative 30 pressure. So we're gonna continue with the process of letting out some of the refrigerant into our lines. So as per the instructions, what that entails is first we're gonna open up the high pressure valve area, and we're going to turn this counterclockwise, a quarter turn approximately, and leave that for 5 seconds. So we're trying to release some of the gas to help us not, vacuum the system, so we'll be able to take off all the attachments without letting in air into the system. Okay, so let's do this for 5 seconds. You should hear a hiss. Let's just do counterclockwise. So let's see if I can get this to go. One, two, three, four, five. Okay, so for 5 seconds, we let it out and we close it up, back up. Then as per instructions, we're gonna check the pressure. And we're gonna come back in 5 minutes to make sure that the pressure is about the same, and it's like I don't know, it's kind of touching the 100 in the back there, in the middle. So the pressure seems like it did go up a little bit, but I reread the instructions and it said just to watch it for 1 minute. And you know, after all my nitrogen tests, leak tests, and pressurized tests, I'm pretty comfortable everything is fine. So I'm gonna take off this connection, and we should see a little bit of the gas, refrigerant gas, come out. Okay, you heard a little bit of the gas come out. That's good. And I have to take off this adapter too, which is also makes some of the gas come out. Which kind of sucks, you have to do it twice, but there we go. Let's try to do it really fast. Wear some gloves. That's it. So now we can take the nuts, and actually we're going to be releasing the rest of the pressure there. So we're going to close up this one. Tighten it by hand, tighten a little bit more later. And we're going to open up both the low pressure and high pressure as the instructions say. Alright, so let's open these up again. This time I'm going to open the high one a little bit, the low pressure a little bit, so it starts throwing through the system. Oh, this is a little tight. Okay, that says to open them all the way, so I'm going to open these guys all the way with the correct hex size. Let's make sure it's all the way open. I want to open the high side all the way as well and tighten it a bit as per the instructions. Alright, tighten that, tighten here, and that should be it. The system should be full of Freon now. I'm going to turn it on and close up. Let's close these up first. Keep them clean. I'm going to turn on the system to make sure it turns on, and then I'll do a couple of leak tests after that. Mainly on this valve, because actually I removed the Schrader valve from inside when I was doing the nitrogen test. So I want to make sure that that's in place correctly. So I'll put some bubbles around here, and that should be it. But yeah, hopefully I'm going to do a turn on test, make sure it turns on now. Alright, so I was able to turn on the AC. It's looking good. I set it to 69 for now. It's actually a little chilly outside today. It's probably like in the 70s, but I wanted to see if the AC feature works. Here's my my heat gun. Outside it's 75, and when I point it inside, it's looking at like 48. So that's a good reading. And the outdoor unit is kicked on, so it's looking good. Next I'm going to test the heat, because it's actually getting a little chilly. Alright, I changed the heat mode to heat and the temperature to 86. it was kind of off for like a minute or two, probably like closer to 2 minutes, and the fan wasn't even turning on. And now it just kicked on, and it seems like there's a bit of warmer air coming out. Let me do a quick test. I think it's still starting up, but yeah, 98 coming out of there, so already it's at least, I want to say, around 20 degrees hotter than the temperature is in here. So yeah, seems like it's working well. So far installation's looking good. Like I said, I'm gonna still do that quick leak test outside, make sure I'm not losing refrigerant overnight. I'm gonna clean up some of this stuff, discuss some of these finishing touches. Then I'm gonna install the Wi-Fi dongle that it came with, and we're gonna be finishing up. Alright, let's install the Wi-Fi dongle. This gives the unit the ability to communicate with Wi-Fi and also with your Alexa device, so you can program it. So you pop the lid from the sides, and this is where the USB drive goes. So you're gonna have to try to stick it in there. It's a little out of the way. So I'll just try to push it in there. That's about it. And once it's in there, it's gonna take a little bit to power on, and you can go to your Alexa app, and it should help you finish the installation. See, there's like there's a QR code on here. It also comes with a QR code sticker. They recommend to put that on the unit somewhere, so I'll do that. I kind of want to put it, I'll just put it on the side over here. That way I can scan it from my Alexa app. Once you do that, it's a pretty easy install, and you'll have all the features that you'll be able to access it remotely and so on. So the kit also comes with this little remote holder, and I decided to just put it on my wood bookcase next to my chairs. But yeah, you can mount it to the wall. The screws they give you are pretty short, so you might need longer screws if you want to mount it to the wall somewhere. Alright, so one important thing I wanted to mention is you're going to want to insulate your refrigerant lines, because they do give off heat or cold depending on your settings, and to make it as efficient as it can be, you really do need to insulate it, especially if you have a longer run. This short run, it doesn't make a huge difference, but I'm still going to insulate it, clean it up, get the wires out of the way, make sure the wires are not touching your exposed copper lines, because they can get hot or cold and mess with the lines if they're touching. And besides that, I'm gonna get the wires out of the way. So I used a zip tie to kind of clean them up, attach them to the back of the AC unit, or to the AC unit holder, and I'm just gonna clog up all the holes. I think for now I'll leave this the water exhaust here, but the kit does come with an extension, so if you see puddling where you might not want it to be, you can attach the extension and then kind of route it under the AC or direct it somewhere else that you want it to be. That's about it. I'm gonna clean up here a little bit. I'm gonna tie that or connect this to the wood with a little staple. Make sure everything is as neat as it can be. Clog up all the extra holes I made, and that's gonna be it. And one thing I did want to bring up, I did buy these plastic tubing that opens in the back. It's kind of like a half tubing, and I did use this for my inside unit to make the connection look neater. Let me show you that real quick. See right there, I kind of wrapped the indoor lines in between the outdoor lines. There's a bit of a hole still there, so I'm going to use some caulking in there. But yeah, I think that made it look a lot cleaner. And that's kind of all the tips that come to mind at the moment. I will make a short video of the finished product after I clean up. And yeah, I hope you found this useful.